YouTube, what the crap's going on? HeirofCarthage here, and I am back with some action in Total War Warhammer 3. This time it's a multiplayer battle, this one again with Indie Pride from over at Milk and Cookies Total War. I'd had a lot of requests from people to play Tzeentch versus High Elves. Now, of course, things got different in this matchup from the moment that the Champions of Chaos DLC was made available to us, because Tzeentch picks up some very key units in this matchup. Now, before we really let things play away too quickly, I'm going to put it in slow motion and kind of talk through why this matchup was requested, or at least why I think it was, and what I think of the matchup in general. So, Tzeentch and High Elves. High Elves have a lot of tools that can really hurt Tzeentch. They have a lot of shields, they have a lot of fire resistance, and fire resistance is really big in old Tzeentch because blue horrors had fire damage, the pink ones had fire damage, blue fire does fire damage. Almost everything came with some amount of fire damage, and the High Elves have units that are very resistant to fire damage. Emmerich is absurdly resistant to it. The Fireborn are very resistant to it. Dragons are resistant to it. They also have units like Silverin Guard, which are going to be a pain in the butt for Tzeentch because they have spell resistance, and they have really good shields. The High Elves have really good range. Their archers outrange Tzeentch by a lot. Bolt throwers can put a lot of pressure on Tzeentch, as they have good damage from range. The High Elves just have a lot of tools to hurt Tzeentch. They have Tempest, which can help control the skies, even though Tzeentch is good in the air. So I think a lot of people requested this because they felt like it was going to be a really difficult matchup for Tzeentch, and it probably will be. Now, what has changed since Champions of Chaos? Well, you get access to Tzeentch. I have him here. I don't know that Tzeentch is going to be a difference maker per se this matchup, though he does look really cool. Unfortunately, Tzeentch is probably the weakest of the three new lords, just overall. I haven't found near as much use for him as I have for, say, like Festus. Festus is probably the best of the new lords, and then I think probably Valkia right after that, and then I would say Tzeentch last, and dang, who's it I'm forgetting? This is Tzeentch, Valkia, Slaanesh. Azazel. Boy, they're gonna whip me. Anyway, yeah, Azazel's probably third, in my opinion. He's pretty good, though. Anyway, let's take a look at what I brought. Now, Tzeentch now has access to Chaos Warriors with a sword and shield. This gives you a silver shield. This gives me a tool back against the High Elves, right? So, Chaos Warriors of Tzeentch give me the ability to overcome Silverin Guard, and they give me the ability to neutralize some of the damage from long-range archers, right? So this is definitely, in my opinion, a really welcome piece for the Tzeentchian army. Another piece that's going to be nice is the addition of Marauders. So now I have Marauder Spears, which can help deal with cavalry trying to charge into my flanks. And then my main line here is going to be 4 of these Chaos Warriors of Tzeentch. And they have a barrier, and then I've got 3 Marauder Spears. I have 1 Chaos Knight of Tzeentch. This is another tool, though. This tool was here, though, I believe, the Chaos Knight of Tzeentch. And then I've got the Marauder Horseman of Tzeentch, which this is a new tool here. This is a nice one because it can help deal potentially with like Illyrian Reaver archers. Any units that are flying, you can chuck the javelins at it and have a good time there. And now they do warp flame damage, but you can also see their ammunition's flaming. So again, anything with flame resistance, it's going to hurt. I've got Screamers. Screamers are a very nice tool against large units for the High Elves. They do AP, anti-large. They are very squishy, though. So you have to be careful where you engage them. And then finally, I brought a Spawn of Tzeentch. And this one's going to be doing some armor sundering to help me cut through those really tough targets. Now, Tzeentch has the, I believe, Lore of Tzeentch, and I've brought 2 spells with them. Infernal Gateway, which this was basically my insurance against elite infantry, because I don't really have a way elsewise to deal with elite infantry in this army. And then I've got the Blue Fire of Tzeentch to try and deal a little bit of damage to large targets, though again, if it's Fireborn or dragons, it won't do much because of the flame damage. Now let's go take a look at Indie Pride's army, and he is going to be rocking Tyrion. Tyrion is going to be a very tough target to kill for Tzeentch. He's very tanky. He has heals, he's got armor, he's got Sunfang, AP damage. He's going to be very tough. He's brought a Light Mage, so this is going to give him, potentially access to nets, but he brought Time Warp and Foz Protection rather than nets. And he's also got Shim's Burning Gaze. So it looks like he's looking for a buff to his troops in order to help them fight better. He's got the Keepers of the Flame in the rear protecting some archers. And then on the front and flanks, he's got, I say the front and flanks, on either flank, he's got a unit of Swordmasters of Hoeth, and then right here in the middle is a Silverin Guard. These are the ones that I said would have been very dangerous to previous Tzeentch. Anyway, so that's the armies. There's another Silverin Guard in the back as well. He's also got the Fireborn, which I think is kind of a great pick against Tzeentch. They have anti-large, in case you have to take out cavalry or other units. They're very deadly against most Tzeentch infantry, except with the addition of the new halberds, which are out there. And I do have a second horseman on the other flank as well. So I'm spread kind of wide. When I saw his elite infantry, I was basically hoping maybe I can help one of my Chaos Warriors win the fight against this Swordmaster by combining it with the Spawn. That was kind of my hope, is combine it with the Spawn, see if we can win. We'll probably lose to the other one and have to deal with it later. And then the Keepers of the Flame, I already had in my mind, I've got to get the Infernal Gateway onto the Keepers of the Flame, otherwise there is no prayer for me to kill them. So that's kind of my thought process so far. My Screamers are not going to be worth a ton to me except for getting rid of the Fireborn, which I definitely do need to get rid of them. Alright, so as we move up, I'm using my Marauder Horsemen to kind of do a little bit of initial skirmishing here, but you can see that I'm going to be outranged by the High Elves. I'm going to use my Chaos Knights to try and land a charge here into his Swordmasters. I go ahead and pull off at the last second. Decide to feint there instead because I didn't like getting counterpunched by the Fireborn. I'm surprised Indy didn't hit me with the same thing here. But I go ahead and turn around and counter feint that yet again. And I'm going to go ahead and take that charge. It's not great for me. I'll have to pull those Knights out. But I figured if anything, at least this will save my Chaos Warriors a head-on charge, but it ends up being very painful for my Knights. I'll pull them back and try and cycle that, and I probably ended up not even really saving my Warriors. I may have saved them the charge if those Swordmasters are chasing the cavalry. Elsewhere, you can see over here, I did double combine against this Swordmaster. They are already laying down an absolute beat on my Chaos Warriors. Just look how quickly they're cleaning through them. I think the barrier was brought down by the archers. I moved my Screamers back here to start threatening the archers, the High Elves, and this is to force the Fireborn to follow and get it away from this fight over here. And you can see I used my Chaos Knights to cycle another charge here to try and hurt that Swordmaster. I've got a couple of units that are idle. I'm going to bring up Tzeentch as well, but I was trying to do a lot of different things at once here. I had a lot of things to try and control. Look at this Swordmaster. We got their armor down with the Chaos Spawn, so I kind of am just staying in the air. I'm going to go ahead and fix the Phoenix Guard. I feel like this is my opportunity to use the Infernal Gateway. I can throw away a Marauder Spearman and essentially kill the Keepers of the Flame by fixing them. So I'm bringing Tzeentch up in order to drop that spell. Now this Silverin Guard, I should do well against it with the Warriors. At least I hope I will. And here comes the Infernal Gateway, and let's see, is it effective? And the answer is, it is absurdly effective. This is probably something that needs to be fixed in the game, to be honest. Like, elite infantry is difficult to use because it can just be annihilated so simply. Anyway, I got Tzeentch through, and I'm threatening, and then I brought my Marauder Horsemen in, and I swarmed the Fireborn with my Screamers. And not all of the Keepers died, so they're going to come and help fight back. My Marauder Horsemen got way ahead of themselves. These archers were not nearly so easy to kill. Let's see how I did over here. My Spawn have been very useful against the Swordmasters. You can see just how tough that unit is. The Knights here are the only thing left to fight the other Swordmaster. I've got these two units that I just haven't activated yet. Fortunately for me, that means they'll get to serve as a reserve. Unfortunately for me, I'm not using them effectively in the fight right now. Like, these Horsemasters, or these Marauder Horsemen could come and be putting javelins in the back of that, and I could get some reinforcements from the spears to allow my cavalry to cycle charge. So, still working on my ability to micro a fight. It needs to improve. It is certainly not quite where it needs to be yet, but I'm working on it. At least so far we did get some wins. Hitting that Keeper of the Flame was big-time value for Tzeentch, though. I don't have all the archers tied down, and my Knights are going to pay the price for it now. I do have one of them tied down, kind of, with Tzeentch. Good news is we broke that Swordmaster. I even had a couple of Spawn left. They're going to fight Tyrion momentarily. So at this point, I really just need to clean up the High Elf infantry, and I've got a pretty decent chance of winning this. Now, of course, Indy here brought an army that was more elite infantry focused, but in a way, it's not a terrible idea. If Tzeentch doesn't properly punish you for it, then you're certainly going to chop his head off. Because even with Tzeentch's additions, like, their chosen they got is a halberd unit, and it would not like fighting either the keepers or the swordmasters. So in some ways, I understand his pick. I was a little bit surprised to not see Eagle Claw bolt throwers, because I feel like the bolt throwers would have been a real problem for me. I moved in these Marauder Horsemen. I was hoping they would throw at these swordmasters, but instead they decided to throw their javelins towards the corner, the Silverin Guard, because I had them on fire at will, obviously. I think I gave them the order here. Yep, here they go. So I'm going to try and clean up that swordmaster. It's helping a great deal. I've only got so long of them being held by that Marauder Spear. I'm probably going to get one more charge in. That Chaos Knight. You can see back here, I finally managed to pretty much clean up the Fireborn, which now it's going to allow me to get his archers. And then this Silverin Guard is still fighting. I finally lost my spawn. And then that Swordmaster came back from routing near the edge of the map. So that one is potentially going to be back to fight me. We're getting Shim's Burning Gaze here to hurt my Marauder Horsemen. Not a bad idea. Those horsemen are hurting his Swordmasters really badly right now. So I ended up getting some decent value out of those horsemen by helping to kill that Swordmaster. Now I've got all my Screamers free, which means the archers should be dead. The Light Mage is trying to help fight off my Screamers over here, but I'm okay with the Light Mage coming into this fight. At least it keeps the Light Mage from doing something elsewhere. The Fireborn still hanging in there, all the way down to the end. This unit's going to basically fight to the death. It's an impressive showing from an impressive unit. So, we've got Tyrion left, and I have some Chaos Knights. I've got Village here, and we're going to have to try and put some damage into Tyrion, hoping to regenerate some barrier on Village. Every time we cast a spell, Village does help to regenerate barriers, so it probably isn't a bad idea to kind of be bringing spells that you can keep casting with Village so that you can try and improve barriers. Over here, Tyrion's just going to go get into combat, which that's what he should do. He needs to get in and fight. Getting rid of him is going to be difficult. I'm going to throw my javelins. I don't know how effective it'll be. My Screamers will help a little bit to chew through Tyrion's armor. They're not really meant to go against an infantry-sized target, but it won't be the end of the world. Village has taken a long time to get his barrier back. They did change some of the recharge rates on the barriers, which is probably good. I think at first they were recharging too quickly. Now it takes quite a while before they start recharging, and that's fine. Just to let you all see the stats here on Village, I mean, he's a pretty decent duelist, especially since he has a shield and magic. But I mean, he's nowhere near Tyrion's level. So I'm going to keep using blue fire here. I'm just trying to get as much damage out there as I can. Obviously, magic is very important for Tzeentch, so I'm going to throw in all my chaff units. I've just got to wear these units down. There's still some Silverin Guard in here, which is a very tough unit, and we need to wear it down. Get rid of as much of the units that are remaining to help Tyrion as possible. I was looking at a quick charge here. This is probably not going to do much, so this was a mistake. I also have to watch out. Here comes the Sunfang. I did see this, but just a little too late. Fortunately, my barrier pretty much absorbed it. It didn't really do much outside of the barrier. So I'm going to manage to get a few more javelins into Tyrion, though it does very little, because they're not AP. I have to be careful about committing Village too heavily to this fight, because if Tyrion just KOs him real quick, I could turn around and lose this battle, because Tyrion's just that tough. So I'm trying to be respectful, but I'm also, I need to engage. Like, I'm going to have to kill him if I want to win. Like, I can't just dance around the fight and let Tyrion kill all of my other units. So here I'm going to go ahead and go all in against Tyrion, because I saw that he had used his Sunfang. He does not have a Vortex spell to punish this. So I'm lucky here. But I think Indy, honestly, the reason he didn't bring a Vortex spell is because they're kind of a little bit busted in some ways now. They're definitely a meta, and I think he was trying to do something different rather than just bring a straight-up meta build. Like, if he really wanted to meta hard, I mean, he could have brought, Dwellers Below or something like that, and some healing and some other stuff, and made my life miserable in that regard. And, I mean, that's certainly kind of the way to go at it in a more meta bit. I thought this was an interesting army that he brought, called the Elite Infantry. It has certainly posed a challenge. I had a very hard time getting through most of it. And then Tyrion's so tough here that even at the end, with him completely surrounded, we're struggling to kill him. And there's some more Silverin Guard headed back over here as well. So I'm going to have to get rid of it. The Light Mage is still around. I need to get rid of the Light Mage so that we can make sure that there's no more magic used against me. And we're still going to have to watch out for potential uses of Sunfang here. I don't know how often it recharges or how many times it can be used. Let's take a look. I'll remind myself. It can be used as many times as you want. It's got a 90-second cooldown, so it's a pretty long cooldown when you're singled out in a fight like this. Starting to get some good damage done on Tyrion, though, so he is falling apart, and the power bar is swinging ever more to my favor, so it looks like I'm going to be able to seal the deal here. So Tzeentch, I would say, is probably the weaker in this matchup. At least I think they are. I think that the High Elves have a lot of advantages. Now, this matchup would have to be explored a lot more to know for sure whether there's a certain advantage for the High Elves, but I think there are for the reasons that I mentioned earlier. I ended up winning this matchup. Indy tried a different build here. Emmerich would have been the really easy pick here, and it would have been a lot harder probably for me to kill Emmerich. And again, I think Indy was just trying not to go too super meta on me here. He was just playing a match with me in a more friendly way. But yeah, I think Emmerich would hurt really bad. Potentially because of his abilities as well. But yeah, that's Tzeentch versus High Elves. You all tell me what you think of this matchup. Like I said, I think in land battle it's going to be one that the High Elves have some really nice tools in. Tzeentch is not without tools, but I feel like the High Elves have a lot of very nice counters. Like bolt throwers would have been a real pain in the butt for me here too. It could have done a lot of damage to my cavalry, to my screamers, and as long as they were protected by annoying units, it would have been difficult to get to them. So I think that one of Tzeentch's ways to get back at the High Elves is certainly going to be Vortex spells. They're going to have to use Vortex spells heavily to punish the High Elves' expensive units and force them into certain picks that are then more predictable for Tzeentch to try and fight back against, right? So that's definitely going to be what they're going to have to try for. Anyway, hope you all enjoyed this one. Let's look at a couple of stats here. Village ended up doing pretty well, and that was almost entirely because he completely sucked the life out of the keepers. And when Indy brings an expensive unit like this and I can just click delete it, obviously it's going to be good value for me. It's going to be very frustrating for him, and rightfully so. Like I said, this is something that probably needs to be addressed in this game. They're going to have to find a way to make it where you can't just click delete an expensive infantry like that. Like, there's going to have to be a little more challenge to it. They're already very vulnerable to artillery and certain types of missile fire, and so having them be uber vulnerable to these vortex spells is a little bit frustrating. I had mentioned maybe they should have higher spell resistance. So I don't know. What exactly could be a fix to it, but I'd love to hear from you all. HeirofCarthage signing out for now. Hope you all enjoyed it, and I'll see you soon with some more action in Total War Warhammer 3.